Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'd like to call our Nash County Board of Commissioners meeting for December the 3rd to order at this time. It's customary for us to begin our meetings with a prayer by our commissioner. At this time, we're going to do that first. If you wish to stand and join us in that prayer, you're welcome to. If you wish to use it for your own prayer, you're fine to do that, or you can use it for a moment of silence, whichever you prefer. And at this time, I'll call on Commissioner Dan Combs for the invocation, and then Commissioner Wayne Outlaw for the pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for another beautiful day, Lord. We thank you for all the blessings of life, Lord. We just thank you for health, strength, Lord. And we just thank you for Nash County. We thank you for this opportunity we have, Lord, to do all that we can do, Lord, for all the people of Nash County. We just pray that we will always do that. Lord, we just pray that you would be with us during this meeting this morning, Lord, and that everything we do would be pleasing in your sight, Lord. We just ask all your many blessings upon us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are now on item 4 of our agenda, which is to approve the minutes that we might have from November 2018. We had a meeting on the 5th of November and the 19th of November. At this time, I'd call for any amendments or a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Belfield.
I offer motion to approve the minutes for November the 5th and November the 19th.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Belfield, a second by Commissioner Combs. Is there any questions to that motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Minutes stand approved. Next item, I must ask if the judge is in the house at this time, and I do see he is, sir. I couldn't find you there to start with, sir. Welcome. Glad to have you this morning. At this time, I'm going to ask Judge Sumner to swear in the commissioners that were re-elected to their seats. First, I'm going to ask if you, Judge Sumner, would swear in Mr. Belfield first, if you would. He has a request to be sworn in with his wife present. I think you need to join him up here, Mr. Belfield. Mr. Belfield, which term is this for you, sir?
This is, fifth term.
Fifth term. Didn't mean to put you on the spot there. But I understand.
Yeah, I completed 20 years
Right.
in November, so this is starting another 4 years.
Okay.
Left hand. Raise your right hand, sir. Do you, Fred Belfield Jr., solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States?
Yes,
Do you, Fred Belfield Jr., solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina, to the constitutional powers and authorities which are may be established for the government thereof, that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability up to God?
yes,
And finally, do you, Fred Belfield Jr., swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of the office of Commissioner of Nash County according to the best of your skill and ability and according to the laws so help you God?
yes.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Wells, would you like to have your husband join you, and we'll do you individually?
Take that cap off.
If you'll take the cap off. I'm gonna let you tell him that. I'm not gonna get in that.
He'll take it off.
He did. I don't think I've ever seen him with that at all.
You'll be glad to show they have hair.
Got a lot of it.
I see now why. I see now why he wears the cap. Y'all's hair looks almost identical. No, sir. Looks very nice.
A whole lot of whack.
Get it there,
You
behave.
get up
pal.
there close.
That always works. Left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Do you, Mary Wells, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States?
I do.
Do you, Mary Wells, solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful, bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina, to the constitutional powers and authorities which are, may be established to the government thereof, that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God.
I do.
And finally, do you will swear that you will well and truly execute the office of duty of Commissioner of Nash County according to the best of your skill and ability and according to the law, so help you God.
I do.
Congratulations.
And now, even though I'm probably gonna get shot, I didn't realize we were, having our spouses join us, but I'm gonna share my spouse with Mr. Outlaw and have both of us sworn in at the same time. If Paige would join us up here, baby, I'd appreciate it.
Make both of y'all look better.
Make both of
She
us
done
look
like
better.
happy.
Like a rose between two thorns.
Told him that one jam I was talking about.
She's all right. We're gonna approve it. That's all we do. We can't change it. We're gonna approve it. I've told her. You know, lost her son, and I've talked to her dog. You know, it's all right. We gonna. All we do is approve it.
Gentlemen, do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States?
I will.
Do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will be faithful, bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina, and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are, may be established in the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God.
I will.
And finally, do each of you swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of the office of Commissioner of Nash County, according to the best of your skill and ability, and according to law?
I will.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Judge Sumner. We're gonna get to you again in just a minute, if you can be with us just a few more minutes.
Yes, sir.
All right. At this time, it's time for the commissioners to elect officers for the next year, and therefore, I'm going to appoint the attorney, Mr. Vince Durham, as temporary chairman at this point in time. Mr. Durham, if you'll take over, I'd appreciate it, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. North Carolina general statutes require this board to elect a new chairman every December at its first meeting. Therefore, I will entertain motions and seconds for the election of a new chairman of the Nash County Board of Commissioners.
So moved.
Well, I'll second it.
And who did you nominate?
I-
You.
I'm nominating vice chair.
We're just electing the chair now.
Go ahead.
I'll entertain a motion to elect a chair of the Nash County Board of Commissioners.
Chair, I nominate Commissioner Robert Davis to be the chair for 2019.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Belfield and a second by Commissioner Barnes. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. I believe that was unanimous, but those opposed, please signify by saying no. It was unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. At this time, first of all, I put my pen on. I didn't want to be presumptuous this morning, and I couldn't find just the commissioner pen. At this time, we will elect a vice chairman, and I would open the floor for nominations for vice chairman of the Nash County Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have the honor of nominating Wayne Outlaw for vice chair.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. I have a nomination for Wayne Outlaw.
Second.
I have two seconds, Mr. Cone and Mr. Bellfield. All in favor of Wayne Outlaw being vice chair, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Congratulations, Mr. Outlaw. You continue to serve as chair this time. I appreciate it. I do appreciate the board seeing the faith to allow me to continue to be chairman, and I certainly want to thank the board, and also equally as much, I want to thank the staff. They make the job fairly easy, quite frankly. You just really got to show up, and they've got everything ready for you.
Mr. Chairman, could I make one comment?
You can, sir.
I had spoke with Miss Richardson. Of course, everybody knows she's had knee replacement surgery. And I asked her what her thoughts were for chairman for the coming year. And her words exactly were, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So congratulations.
Appreciate it, sir. Yeah. I did have a conversation with Miss Richardson last night. She called about 6:30. She said right before she was going to bed, and I went to visit her one night last week, a week before last, about 5 after 7, and all the lights were off, and indeed, she was already in the bed. But her daughter came to the door, the one that I hadn't really had much conversation with, the one that lives out in the Midwest somewhere, maybe Arizona. I'm not sure where it's at, where she lives at, Arizona, okay. But I did get to visit with her for just a brief moment. But Miss Richardson seems to be doing well. She hates missing this morning. I think she really considered coming, but after the conversation, she finally agreed that she would not try to make it. So she should be back very soon. She had a knee replacement, and I think things are going very well for her. Judge Sumner, at this time, we would like to administer the oath of office for Soil and Water District Board members. If you would come up and do that, sir, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Hold the Bible in your left hands. Raise your right hand for me. Do each of you solemnly swear that you will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, that you will faithfully discharge the duties of your office as Nash Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor, Shipping Guard?
I will.
And do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are may be established to the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support and maintain and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God?
I will.
And finally, gentlemen, do each of you swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of the office of Nash Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor according to the best of your skill and ability and according to the laws of your God?
I will.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Always glad to have you join.
Pleasure to be here with you.
If you don't have anything to do, you can sit with us this morning.
Unfortunately, I've got
Thank you, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're now on item number 10 on our agenda, which is public comment session. section. If there's anyone in the public that wishes to speak to the Board of Commissioners about any item that's not otherwise on the agenda, we do have a sign-up period before the meeting out front. If you happen to have missed needing to do that, I will be glad to hear from you anyway. We did not have anyone to sign up this morning, but is there anyone in the audience that wishes to bring anything to the Board of Commissioners? Either we're doing a real bad job and it'll be too many, or we're doing okay, but I appreciate everyone being here this morning. Moving to item number 11, it's the recognition of Sergeant Bass with the Nash County Sheriff's Department, and this is a great story. We'll have Brandon Medina present this award, and good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So if I can just call Sergeant Bass up with his wife, he can join us as I read this information that we put together for him.
We're always delighted to have recognitions like this, Sergeant Bass. I thoroughly enjoyed reading the story first about you and then seeing the clip. We greatly appreciate your work for Nash County and everyone else that works for Sheriff Stone. Y'all keep bringing us mighty good news clips.
So as everyone knows, this is Sergeant Scott Bass. He has been employed with the Nash County since 2010 and has primarily served in the patrol division. In 2017, Sergeant Scott Bass was promoted to sergeant, and as you will hear, Sergeant Bass is a kind, compassionate, and has a very generous heart. In 2017, Sergeant Bass, along with other deputies, responded to a missing and possible suicidal person. The man, a high-ranking military member of the U.S. military, was located down a secluded path, armed with a gun. Sergeant Bass attempted to reason with the man, ordering the other deputies to fall back. Sergeant Bass attempted to reason with the man, ordering the other deputies to fall back, putting himself between a suicidal man with a gun and his fellow law enforcement officers. Again, in 2017, Sergeant Bass was eating lunch with a friend while in Raleigh, attending specialized training. After leaving the restaurant, a man approached Sergeant Bass's marked patrol vehicle, said that his business had been robbed. Without hesitation, Sergeant Bass responded to the business and apprehended the suspect, holding him until proper authorities arrive. In February 2018, Sergeant Bass responded to a call for service where he again spoke with a veteran of our military who was having a hard time coping with life. Being a veteran himself, Sergeant Bass was empathetic and provided the necessary assistance as soon as he recognized that he was dealing with somebody suffering from a severe mental distress. When he came into the sheriff's office to praise Sergeant Bass, Mr. Robert Mason was profoundly moved by the gentleness and kindness of Sergeant Bass. He added, "If it weren't for Sergeant Bass, I probably would have killed myself." In March 2018, the sheriff's office responded to a call of a suicidal person armed with several weapons and possibly having hostages. The man stated to 911 that he had a gun and that he was going to shoot 3 deputies before he shot himself. The man came outside with his hand behind his back as if he was holding a weapon. Sergeant Bass was the first deputy to come in contact with the emotionally disturbed man and began speaking with him immediately. Crisis negotiators arrived on scene, however, did not interfere with Sergeant Bass because of his efforts were being very successful. Sergeant Bass was extremely effective in his communication skills, convincing the man to show his hands and to be taken into custody peacefully. Sergeant Bass once again put himself between a suicidal man with a gun and his fellow law enforcement officers. Another instance, Sergeant Bass would often see a woman walking from her home in Rocky Mount to her job in Nashville, at times in inclement weather. Sergeant Bass recognized the woman from a local restaurant and asked if she wanted to ride to work. Sergeant Bass and Jaleesa Corbett became really good friends, often giving her a ride to work. When he wasn't able to, he asked other deputies to offer her rides. Sergeant Bass contacted a local retail store and asked them to donate a bicycle to help Jaleesa commute from home to work. When she was presented with the bicycle, Jaleesa was overly grateful. Sergeant Bass's compassion made a positive impact on the Nash County Sheriff's Office. With that gesture, he was ultimately able to have a voice for all law enforcement officers to be invited to the Steve Harvey Show. By sharing his story on such platform, Sergeant Bass was able to help bridge the gap between communities and law enforcement officers that serve them. When asked why he decided to help Jaleesa, Sergeant Bass answered, "I wanted to help Jaleesa because she walks 6 miles to work every day, regardless of the temperature, rain or shine, stands on her feet during the entire shift, and walks 6 miles back home in the same conditions, and that is truly admirable. I've had the opportunity to get to know her and wanted to somehow lessen the burden of that 12-mile round-trip walk. Through his selfless service and dedication to the citizens of Nash County, as well as those of us here in the Sheriff's Office, Sergeant Bass is an exemplary employee, a role model, and the epitome of our core values: honor, compassion, and diligence. His actions cannot be measured on a scale, but can be felt nationwide to the positive ripple effect they will have on all law enforcement officers, especially those of us in Nash County. And this year, we've nominated Sergeant Bass as Officer of the Year, and we presented him a plaque for Deputy of the Year. For your selfless service and dedication to the citizens of Nash County, you are an exemplary employee, a role model, and the epitome of our core values: honor, compassion, and diligence. Your actions cannot be measured on a scale, but can be felt nationwide to the positive ripple effects they will have on law enforcement officers, especially those in Nash County. Presented by Sheriff Keith Stone, 2018. Sergeant Scott Bass.
I would like to tell everyone here, thank you first for coming here. I appreciate this opportunity to be noticed. But I'd also like to speak for everybody that I work with, because you're only as good as the people you work with. And I work with some of the finest people in Nash County. I had the pleasure to do so for almost 13 years now. And I hope I have another 13 years with these guys, especially with this man right here. Chief Medina's made a huge difference in my life. He's always been there for me. Every chance he gets, he's doing something for somebody else within the office, not just himself. So I'd just like to say thank you and accept it on behalf of every great deputy that works at Nash County Sheriff's Office. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Scott. Scott, how about introduce the lady with you, if you would, so you won't be in trouble when you get home today.
This is my wife, Sonia Bass. We've been together 16 years.
You're supposed to know.
You always got to make sure you get the numbers right. But we met in Wilson, where I'm originally from. She's from Serbia. Nash County's welcomed us in and made it our home.
Wonderful.
She's the vice president for Poppies International in Gold Rock. So if you guys need
I
anything-
did remember that, Rita. I wanted you to introduce her to us.
Yes, sir.
Yep,
So if y'all
sure
need
did.
anything, you let us
And
know.
if my math is right, you take 13 from 30, that's 17 more years you can be with our sheriff's department.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's better than my math.
Right. Thank you. We certainly do appreciate it very much. It was a wonderful story,
I appreciate
and it shows very well for all Nash County.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr.
I'd just
Belfield?
like to make this comment. I think it speaks well for law enforcement in this area and getting national attention. I think it's great because in so many cases you hear of communities blasting the law enforcement for their actions or whatever they do. But it's obvious to me that Bass has that skill, and he's a people's person, and has a skill that's really needed out here in the community, because mental health and I say mental illness is running rampant. And there's a lot of causes for that, but as long as law enforcement like Bass understands that and has that skill to handle it, it speaks well of law enforcement here in Nash County as well as here in North Carolina and our nation. And I want to thank him for the gestures and things that he has done that reflects well on Nash County and law enforcement here in Nash County.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. I think we're gonna see a clip. Is that correct, Stacy?
Gonna try.
We're gonna try, okay, one. This is very, very, very well done here.
Scott, what ran through your mind when you saw Jaleesa walking in the middle of the night in the freezing cold?
It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, getting near the end of my shift, and I saw her leaving the city side, going into the county. She had her work uniform on. It was raining, it was cold. So I stopped to check on her, and she told me she was going to work, and I offered her a ride because she had quite a few miles to go before she got to work. She walks about 6 to 7 miles one way to go to work.
Jaleesa, why were you walking to work?
I was looking for a job, and I applied for several Bojangles. And one first from my house called me first. And since they hired me first, I said, okay, I'll work at this one. And we'll walk it. So I had no other way to get out there.
Wow. Now, Scott, besides offering Jaleesa rides, you also surprised her with a gift. Tell us what that was.
We'd been knowing each other for about a year and a half now. Mm-hmm. And I'd try to pick her up when I can. If I couldn't, I'd tell my guys to be in the area if they were able to help give her a ride. And I wanted to do something more for her, so the next day I called Walmart, which was in the area, and told them if they could work with me on maybe getting her a bicycle to help turn a 2-hour walk into a 30-minute walk. They gave us a nice beach cruiser, had gears on it, and hopefully it could...
Now, Jaleesa, you get all 4 seasons in North Carolina.
Yes, we definitely do.
And it don't matter. You
No,
walk.
It don't matter. No.
Rain, sleet, shine.
I'll still walk. How am I supposed to pay my bills?
Okay, well, let me ask you this. How's the bike working out for you?
It's working out. I'm still trying to learn how to ride it without wobbling or falling off of it.
Oh, you never learned how to ride a bike?
Never in my life, but I'm determined
You
to
didn't
learn.
know that, did you, Scott?
No, sir. I've actually checked on her several times, try to encourage her to, keep practicing. Like I said, it can turn a 2-hour walk into a 30-minute ride. And she walks 2 hours to work, and then she's got to stand up for 8 hours. I know what it's like to kind of have to, work that hard. You think about it, you wake up and you're tired, and some days people say we don't want to go to work. And she probably says it too, and then takes a 2-hour walk to work. So I just kind of wanted to help her out.
So let me ask you this, Jaleesa. How's the job going at Bojangles?
After the news footage being told that I was going to be on your show, they offered me a promotion and another store.
This guy here, Scott, this deputy sheriff, with all the negative stories you hear about police officers out there, men and women, I've bought probably 6 of these stories on this show because the majority of police men and women are really good people. And they really are just trying to serve their community. And this guy, Scott, you're a true inspiration for taking time out of your day to help a person in need. I just think that's absolutely incredible. And Jaleesa, you are a true example of determination. We know you work hard, and we know that you deserve a little extra help. On behalf of the show, we're going to be giving you $5,000. Yeah. But that's not all. I reached out to some friends at Capitol Ford in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, because that's where you're from, and they heard about your story, So they want to make sure that you never have to walk in the rain again. So they're giving you a brand new 2018 Ford Fiesta SE. Take a look over there. Yeah. You got a car. Come on over here to the car. Scott, come on over here with it. Take her on over, buddy. Yeah, go and get in, Jaleesa.
Thank you for doing this for her.
No, man, thank you. Wasn't for you, we wouldn't know nothing about this. Thanks to all the police over in Rocky Mount, too, for helping out. Jaleesa, you got a brand new car, girl. Stay in there.
It doesn't get any better than that, does it?
It's definitely hits you right in the heart.
It does indeed. And thank you again, very much. I guess now we will move to item number 12 while you're up, Chief Deputy Medina, and take care of, we're still doing this morning?
Yes, sir.
Service revolver, okay. I didn't see David here.
He's actually working right now.
Okay.
I got him working on the last few days, so.
That's fine too, sir. You go ahead.
So the next one is in regards to requesting a donation of a service revolver to a retiring deputy. Major David Wooten is retiring from the Nash County Sheriff's Office effective January 1st of 2019 with a total of 27 years and 9 months of honorable service. Major David Wooten began his honorable public career with the Rocky Mount Fire Department and served as a firefighter from 1991 through June 1994. In June 1994, David Wooten transitioned to the Nash County Sheriff's Office. During his tenure with the Nash County Sheriff's Office, David's main assignments consisted of as a patrol deputy from 1994 to 1996, as a corporal from 1996 to 1998, as a sergeant from 1998 through 2008, as a lieutenant from 2008 to 2014, as a captain from 2014 to 2016, and as his current rank of major from 2016 up to his retirement. David Wooten served in 2 special assignments during his tenure, consisting of canine handler from 1996 to 2003 and as the internal affairs representative from 2008 to 2016. David Wooten volunteered as a Nash County coordinator for the law enforcement torch run for Special Olympics from 1999 to 2003 and was instrumental in the raising of over $200,000 during that 4-year period. David Wooten represented the Sheriff's Office in Nashville, Tennessee, Hawaii, and Wichita, Kansas for the 20-year anniversary of the torch run. David Wooten also volunteered as the Meals on Wheels coordinator for the Sheriff's Office and coordinated the annual fruit basket giveaway. David Wooten also volunteered to coordinate the Sheriff's Office annual school scholarship as well as the annual book bag giveaway. David Wooten successfully graduated from December 2013 from the 231st session of the FBI National Academy. David Wooten has also earned the North Carolina Sheriff's Education Training Standards Commission Advanced Law Enforcement Certificate in 2014, the Advanced Service Award in 2016, and recognized as Rocky Mount Lions Club Deputy of the Year in 1997. The Nash County Sheriff's Office is requesting approval of the donation of Major David Wooten's service weapon to honor him of his 27 years, 9 months of dedicated and honorable service to law enforcement in Nash County.
Any questions from the board on this item? Pleasure of the board.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Outlaw and a second by Commissioner Belfield to approve this request. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign? Motion carries, sir. One question.
Yes, sir.
I understand he may be helping us part-time moving forward. Does this mean we've got to buy him another weapon, or will we?
No, he would
continue to
use
this?
the one that we're donating him.
I just want to make sure of that, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here this morning with all this great stuff. Next item on the agenda is the public hearing to amend the ordinance requirements for temporary major construction campgrounds or RV parks. Ms. Nixon,
Good morning.
what you got this morning?
I don't have anything that's quite as exciting as the previous two, I don't think.
Be hard to beat, wouldn't it?
But what we have this morning is a public hearing for a text amendment. This is submitted by Daniel Proctor with Smithson on behalf of his client, to amend the ordinance requirements for temporary major construction campgrounds or RV parks, authorizing, and what they're looking for is to authorize that use in GI, general industrial zoning districts, and some other changes to the development standards. Specifically, you'll remember, back in August, we added a new use to the UDO in order to allow temporary RV parks and campgrounds in the RC, rural commercial, and GC, general commercial zoning districts. And those were subject to development standards, and what that means is that's a, excuse me, if the standards are met, that's an in-house review and approval by the staff, so there's no public hearing involved in those. Since those adoptions of those regulations, we haven't approved a park yet, but we have had inquiries, and some of the inquiries are related to properties that the current regulations don't quite fit, but the property owners may be interested in having a park like this, an RV park. So this text amendment request, it comes forward in order to make some amendments, request some amendments to that ordinance in order to allow some other properties to participate. Specifically, they include to add general industrial zoning districts to the existing regulations, to double the cap from its existing 20 units or 20 campsites per campground, from 10 to 20, there you go, I'll get it right, from 10 units or campsites to 20 units or campsites, and that would apply in all of the allowed districts, so that would also apply in the GC and the RC that are existing now. And then the final one would be to apply the current 100-foot minimum separation distance that's required between the campground and adjacent properties, only if that adjacent property is either residentially used or zoned. So that means you would not have to observe that 100-foot difference if you're from a commercial property to an industrial property, or an industrial to industrial, or commercial to commercial. Okay, and the ordinance in your packet, you'll see that the existing ordinance has been, is shown as amended, and the requested changes are shown in yellow. And there's one change that's shown in gray, which I'll get to in just a second. So that's the request. TRC recommendation. The TRC heard this request and considered it on November 1st. And they made a partial approval of the changes, except in terms of the increase in units from 10 to 20. Basically, the TRC recommended a maximum of 15 units unless the park was attached to public sewer, and then you could go to the 20 if sewer was involved. And the reasoning behind that was related to the size of the property that would be needed, perceived in order to house the septic tanks, septic systems to accommodate 20 units, and remembering that these parks are not subject to a public hearing, and so the neighbors don't have the opportunity to voice any concerns that they might have about a facility of that size. So that was the TRC's recommendation. And the planning board heard the request at their meeting on November 19th. They unanimously recommended approval of the request as it was originally submitted, including the increase to 20 units as a maximum. And then the board added a provision to their recommendation that the existing 500-foot, the requirements currently have include a 500-foot separation from the facility or the proposed facility to an existing residence. And the planning board recommends adding a provision that does not apply if the facility, the campground facility and the residents are on the same tract. So they did not want to prohibit a property owner with a large tract from being able to have one of these facilities if their home is also, or a house is also on that large tract.
Okay. All right.
I think that's all I got.
Ms. Dixon.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure our board understands exactly what this ordinance says. It is temporary major construction campground or RV park. Would you explain just a little bit what that means so we'll know what we're doing here is not a permanent thing? It has to have a trigger like the gas line that's currently been constructed across Nash County, which we probably will never see any other event like. But just give us a little bit of explanation on what that actual title of the ordinance means.
Sure. What it means is that we have a set of regular campground and RV park requirements that have been in the ordinance since the UDO started, but they're pretty extensive, involve a lot more paving, roadway, driveway, buffering, and a lot of those kind of requirements in them. And we had heard and had discussions regarding the ACP pipeline coming through, that a lot of workers may be coming from out of town, and that they tend to travel with the pipeline as an example. We also have a planning board member that has previously seen some large-scale construction projects, not related to a pipeline, but related to another large-scale construction type project. And so it's not unusual for workers with some specific skills to follow these kind of construction projects around the country, and typically they come in RVs that they stay in during the term that they're here, and then they move on when the construction is finished. And so staff looked at our existing campground ordinance and thought, well, since this is a more transient or temporary kind of operation, then we brought forward that request back in the summer, which is a modified version of our existing campground and campground and RV park regulations. And it's tied to the fact that it is a temporary event tied to a temporary use tied to a construction event, and the permits are good for 1 year, and then it can be extended for 1 6-month period, and anything beyond that would have to be approved by the commissioners based on the continuation of the construction event, whatever that was.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions from board members on this item?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
How many anticipated permits you think you may get?
We're not sure. I have not been able to get a number from from our contact about how many they anticipate. We believe that there are some we know that there are some in the county right now who are staying in some locations that have not been permitted yet. But again, the construction is not fully underway yet, so we are anticipating more. It could be, I would expect it to be certainly more than 100 spaces that would be needed somewhere around the county. They may not be all in use at the same time because the construction rolls with this type of a development.
Other questions? Nancy, one more. I know I had a couple of calls, one from Ms. Fisher that I discussed with you. Does what we're doing here take care of her concern as well?
Not the specific one that I had discussed. We had that one and another one in another part of the county that was involving A1 zoning.
Right.
And we have let both of them know that A1 is not currently included in this. But we explained that the option of coming to a public hearing like this in order to try to talk about that. But that may be a future one to come back to you again if that
I didn't
develops.
think it did. And the difference in where staff was and where planning board ended up with the 15 versus 20, how do we feel there? I'm thinking that some of these may well be a pump and haul operation, because we have some campgrounds that do not even have septic systems that is a pump and haul, which certainly could apply in this situation. So did y'all come to agreement on that? I know the planning board gets to say, but give us some guidance on what we should do there.
We talked a little bit about pump and haul. What I have found out about pump and haul, and have not directly addressed the question to the state, and I don't believe that our staff has, but is that the permissions that they give at the state level for pump and haul are very restricted, and they involve, environmental emergency conditions, like a spill or something like that. And in relation to a construction project, I believe I kind of hate to speak for those professionals because I may not get it exactly right, but I believe in a situation where you have a construction project that has an approved system permit, but the construction has either gone on longer or the construction of the system or that kind of thing, that it's sort of a gap arrangement more than it is a longer-term arrangement. So I'm not optimistic that pump and haul might be an option in these without some additional concession or addressing the situation from the state.
There is an additional step where our health department gets involved in approving an existing septic system for this use, is it not?
Correct.
So it would be
Part of the-
handled then, they would tell them how many they could put there, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Part of the requirements that are currently in it is for them to get an approved septic arrangement or wastewater arrangement of some type, whether it was something that was approved at the state level or approved locally.
So really, it's got another level to take care of the number anyway.
There's not a maximum amount, there's not a maximum acreage, and so part of the discussion between the staff and the planning board was related to the fact that because these are approved by development standards and don't have the public hearing option, that if you had somebody that had 50 acres and they wanted to put 20 sites and it was next to a neighborhood, that as long as they have the area to meet those requirements, the staff would issue the permit. And so the concern from the TRC was how big the use could get to stay there for 2 years.
All right. I really don't see that as coming fruition there, to be honest with you. I think we're more looking at existing situations where they can get them in without spending a lot of money to land on it, looks like, what I've seen so far.
I think it's probably less of an issue when we're staying with commercially zoned, industrial zoned properties rather than breaking into the residential or A1 zoning districts.
Okay, understood. All right, other questions? Not the pleasure of the board. Excuse me, Mr. Belfield, go ahead.
What about, I mean, as far as these campsites for construction, are they, you don't allow them to be put in an area where they're putting in separate tanks that it would not perk and pass for use of a septic tank?
Right.
Is that restricted?
That being able to have a wastewater, an approved wastewater plan, whether it's septic or something else, is required as part of the conditions in the current requirements. So
Yeah.
being able to demonstrate that they can accomplish
Yeah, I
that.
was reading where it had to be at least 500 feet from a construction home.
100 feet.
And in some areas, I believe it said 1,000 feet, 500 feet and 1,000 feet. What's the difference?
I can't remember the 1,000 feet. I have to look that up just a second. It's 100 feet from a property line and 500 feet from an existing residence is what it currently
100
is.
feet rather than 1,000 feet, yeah. 100 feet is mighty close.
Now, that's to a property line, not a
That's
residence.
to a property line,
Well,
500 to a residence.
sometime a construction home would be real close, no more than 15 feet from the property line.
Granted.
So,
Other
to
questions?
me, that's something to think about.
Not, I'd entertain a motion for approval or denial this request.
Don't you have a public hearing?
Don't need a public hearing.
Yeah, I thought we was supposed to have.
Give me just a second.
Didn't this call
Yeah.
for a public hearing?
Yes, a public hearing for the text amendment. That's correct.
All right, let the chairman back up just a minute then, look at his notes. Any other discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing at this time.
I offer motion that we go into public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Belfield, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Ladies and gentlemen, we're now in a public hearing. If there's anyone here this morning that wishes to speak for or against item number 13 on the agenda. We would be tickled to hear from you at this time. It's not quasi judicial, so anyone can come up and speak that wishes to. Do I have anyone in the audience that wishes to speak? Do you wish to speak, dear love? Seeing no one, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Now, I'm back to the step I was. I'd entertain a motion to approve or deny this request at this time.
We need a consistency statement, I believe. We get to my, part of my notes. We do have a consistency
Okay.
statement
All right.
recommendation first.
I think I better start paying attention here this morning instead of cutting up. It is a two-step process like a rezoning matter, so first we need a consistency statement A or consistency statement B that would need to outline those items that's in your agenda package. A has 1 and 2, and as well as B has 1 and 2. So is there a motion at this time for one of those consistency statements?
Mr. Chairman, I offer motion that we approve consistent with statement A.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second to that motion on consistency statement A?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? Y'all awful quiet this morning. Is everybody understanding what we're doing? Need to back up any? Commissioner Combs?
I got it.
Wells? Okay, we good? All right, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Now we would need to have a motion to approve or deny the text amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I offer motion to approve the text amendment.
Have a motion. Is there a second to a motion to approve the text amendment?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Barnes. Any questions on that motion?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me?
I'm gonna get you.
Okay.
And what we need to do is we need to decide whether we want the 15 or the 20. Is that where you're going?
Right, is it the planning board's recommendation, which includes the addition, or, there are 4 pieces, actually.
Did I need to do that in the consistency statement, or am I okay?
No, the
Okay.
consistency statement is set.
Okay, all right. And what that is, you recall, TRC recommended 15, planning board bumped that up to 20, so we needed to specify which one we're going with.
And
I'll make
authors-
a motion, we approve the planning board recommendation.
Did you make the original motion? Who made the original motion?
Mr. Bill.
I did.
Bill. Didn't that, okay. I need to dispose of that motion since I have it on the table first. Do you want to amend your motion?
Well, I will amend it for the planning board's recommendation of 20.
Yes, sir.
instead of-
Okay. And the second is, Ms. Barnes, are you okay with the 20? All right, so what we're voting on would be the planning board's recommendation to approve the request to move it from 10 to 20. Everybody okay? And I apologize for getting a little bit off this morning.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, the planning board also added the piece about making the separation requirement from existing residences not include residences that are on the same property. Just wanted to be sure that was included.
Excuse me, would you say that again?
I would. Remember that the planning board added an additional recommendation to theirs, which was that if there's a residence within 500 feet, but it's on the same property, that 500 feet would not apply as a restriction. So we just want to know if that recommendation includes that provision as well.
And what you're saying there, to make it clear, is if the petitioner of a piece of land has a residence on the property that they're petitioning for, that residence wouldn't come under the 100-foot rule because it's his own decision not to have it, or her own decision not to have it under the rule.
500 feet. on the-
500 feet, right, of the residence.
I mean, that's the property owner.
The property owner, it would be his own residence because it's got to be on the same parcel of land.
Okay. All right.
You're okay with that part of it? And Ms. Barnes?
Thank you.
If it's a property owner and it's his residence.
Yep, I agree with you. Before I call for a vote, we good, Ms. Nixon?
Yes, sir, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, everybody understand where we are? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a light sign. Motion carries as per the planning board's recommendation. Thank you, ma'am. Next item on the agenda is a hearing to exempt public park owned and operated by local government from the standard paving requirements. Ms. Nixon?
This is an amendment that's originated by the planning staff. When the UDO was adopted in 1999, Nash County had not started in a Parks and Rec function. And what we have seen over time as we've developed and continue to develop parks in Nash County, either jointly with towns or individually, as we're doing currently, a couple of things happened. One is that we found that the construction schedules are sometimes, should I say constrained, maybe guided by sometimes complex funding arrangements that have deadlines in which things have to be finished. And also, we find that the parks that we are developing tend to be phased, where some facilities or services are allowed in phase one and some other things are deferred. The Nash County UDO currently requires parking for the park facilities to be paved, and it also provides a number of exemptions to that paving requirement. This is the parking lot portions. It provides for some uses that are exempt from those parking paving requirements in the parking lot. And the staff believes that allowing the publicly owned and operated parks to be included in that list of exemptions would be a positive thing for Nash County. And that's why we initiated this. And that way the paving of the parking lot can either be deferred to a later phase in the development of the park and allow the services to go ahead and go forward in phase one, or it can also, if the county deems at some point before phase two that they wanted to go ahead and pave that lot or some portion of those lots, that would be allowed through the ordinance. And we can do that through adding it to an existing list of exemptions. I would mention that it does not affect paving or putting hard surface on some areas that are required by other ordinances. Certainly ADA or handicap parking spaces are still required to have a hard surface, and the approach from the DOT right-of-way is also required to have a hard surface. So those requirements would not be affected.
All right.
Okay. Is that clear? Okay. The TRC considered this on November 13th, unanimously recommended approval of the text change. Nash County Planning Board considered it on November 19th, 2018, and also unanimously recommended approval of consistency statement A in your packet, followed by a unanimous recommendation for approval of the request.
Any questions on this item from board members?
I have one. Why do we want to make a difference here for county government-owned parks?
Mr. Belfield, we already have some differences in the ordinance, but what she's saying is the parking lot for a public facility, Benzie Park in this case, is not one of those that are currently listed. We have really been breaking our own ordinance in all of our park construction, been Red Oak, been Bailey Middlesex, and what we're trying to do is fix it so we won't be breaking our own ordinance. I think it's just something we discovered is in there, I guess. Is that correct, Ms. Nixon?
Well, I think that we have, actually, I hadn't been to the park in Bailey Middlesex since they completed it, I don't think, and so I didn't realize that it was not, those portions were not paved.
They are not
recently.
paid, and Red Oak was not paid in the beginning as well.
Red Oak is a little bit different because it's not in our zoning jurisdiction.
Exactly right.
So that one
It is
doesn't
in the
apply.
town of Red Oak.
I tell you why I asked that question, because in the future, I expect to see these parks grow in activities, which is going to call for parking space. And so that's why I asked. I'm wondering, we ought to be thinking about that now.
Well, it's not a matter of us decreasing the number of parks. It's a matter of we're not improving the stone parking lot to a paved status during a current phase or an early phase. It's all driven by the budget we have available for a park. It's our hope that as we do additional improvements at Cooper's Park, we will be doing paving in one of those phases, very similar to what Red Oak and Dorchester did. They went 3 or 4 years without paving, and then eventually they did pave them. And that would be our goal here as well. But it's not decreasing the number of parks. We're required by ordinance to have a
understand
park.
that, but
Okay,
I was
but
just
you was talking about getting it
thinking-
paved.
Yeah,
I think the impact is more of a timing.
Right.
well, I was just looking at it in the future.
Sure.
For growth. And they do need that space.
Well, again, we have the
But
space.
it doesn't have to be paved.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're allowing them not to pave it. We're not decreasing the number of parks.
Okay. Now I'm understanding it better.
Okay.
We allow them not to pave, but have the parking.
That's the only thing that's been affected is the fact that we're not paving it necessarily in the beginning or in a phase one of the
Okay.
park. Mr. Outlaw?
I guess my question would be, would there be some expectation as to when that paving would take place? For example, if you've got, you talked about ADA, and we've got an all-inclusive park that's going to be accommodating children with special needs, and if they park in the parking lot, they've got to get from the parking lot to the area that they're going, and would there be some expectation in terms of timing as to when we would be paving the parking lot?
Well, in phase one, that is taken care of already. There is an improved parking area
For that category of?
yes, sir, it is. And we have some concrete walks in there as well as some screening walks. The concrete walks are put there in phase one simply to accommodate that situation.
Here's what I don't want to happen.
Sure.
And I don't think anybody on this board would want it to happen. I don't want 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road, we still have an unpaved parking area at this park.
Right.
So I don't know that how we set definite timing on it.
Yep.
But I would think that, we should look at some way to identify when we would expect to do that. Would that be in phase two? Would that be a part of what phase two would include, or? I know it depends
was-
on
Sure,
funding.
yeah, it was, bid in phase one. It was an item that we took bids on. And then, of course, we had to meet our budget at the current time.
Understand that.
It could be put in at any time a commissioner chose to put it back in and fund it, of course.
Well,
That's in our purview.
I just would like to see it paved in my lifetime. And I'm afraid if we don't put something in there that kind of gives us some guidance on that, that it'll get lost in the paperwork and no one will ever pay any attention to it except the people that are in the area using the park, and I'll be getting those calls pretty frequently. So that's just my thinking.
Okay. Just to make sure I understand, Mr. Outlaw, are you suggesting that in what we're doing today to put some kind of time constraint on it, or you just want to keep it fresh in our mind, which is in your area, that would be your job to do that?
I'm just saying, I know I'm on this board for 4 more years, and I'd like for it to be paved at least during that 4-year period.
And of course, you can bring it up any time you wish, as long as you can find your votes to fund it. You do realize that?
All right, I would plan to do that very frequently then.
Okay, understood. That's no issue. I really would not want us to tie it into an ordinance,
Okay.
quite frankly, because that really puts a strain on a future board for funding that we generally try not to do. Any other questions?
It's just a very nice park, and I think it would be a shame for it to go for an extended period of time without paving of those parking lots.
Understood. Other comments, questions on this? It doesn't appear like I have any public hearing or anything on this one. You agree,
We
Ms.?
do have a public
Do
hearing
have
as
a
well.
public-
I messed you up. I'm so sorry. My fault.
Okay,
This has,
that's no problem.
We need a consistency statement
I can
and then
catch
a
up on it
motion.
very quickly. Give me 1 second. All right, at this time, if there's no more questions, I would entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this item.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Outlaw, second by Mr. Bellfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Ladies and gentlemen, in the audience, we are now in a public hearing on this item to discuss whether we would put a text amendment in that would allow public facilities to have parking lots that are not paved in the beginning.
Parks specifically.
For parks facilities. Is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against this item at this time? Seeing no one, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Wells,
Second.
second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Pleasure of the board on this item, number 14.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Consistency statement?
For the,
Oh, I'm sorry.
right.
Let me
Second.
jump down to it.
I have a motion to approve consistency statement A and a second. Is there any questions on that motion? I need to hold up a minute, Mr.
No,
Outlaw.
I'm good.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Consistency statement A carries. Now, the pleasure of the board to approve or deny changing the text amendment.
Move for approval of changing the text amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Any
Second.
language that needs to go with that, are we good? All right, have a motion by Commissioner Outlaw, a second by Commissioner Bellfield. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion
Could
carries
I
as
just
well.
please ask that the record reflect that we have indicated that this item will be brought up in the future for consideration of paving based on funding, and of course, I would plan to do that at a pretty regular basis.
Clerk, nods that it will be in the minutes, Commissioner Outlaw. You gonna bring it back up this meeting, you gonna wait till another one?
Wait February.
Thank you, sir. Item number 15, you're still up, looks
I
like,
am.
Ms. Nixon. It's a consideration of a 6-month permit extension for 2 solar farms on Fraser Road.
This is an item that we have seen before, as you know, between our original consideration and zoning considerations for solar farms. We've seen a pretty extensive time period, typical, before they are able to actually come and get their construction permits based on that. And so this is another one of those considerations of a 6-month extension. This is the, I always look at the wrong side. This is the property, disregard what's here on the southern part, so that's the property now. I say that because this section is no longer part of the proposal and has been allowed to expire. This is Fraser Road and Worth Road, and then this is 64 here, to give you an idea of where it is. This original permit was approved early in 2015, I believe, and since then, the developers have been involved with the power company in a variety of due diligence and other studies related to constructing a solar facility at this location. And the, excuse me, the developers, Cypress Creek Renewables, have provided for us, along with their request for a 6-month extension, statements of activity and what has been going on in the project. And I will let the applicant, Philip Martin, is here this morning if you'd like to speak with him or hear from him, but he has provided project status updates for these 2, and they are in adjacent areas. And basically, what I gleaned from the status report is that they are hoping to get the final outcome of what is one of the final hurdles for getting release from the power company. There's an impact study that is currently being conducted, and that schedule is within the power company's control rather than the developer's control, and that's the reason for the request for extending the permit. And that would be a permit extension from the existing, from its current expiration date, not necessarily from today, so it would be 6 months added on to the end of the permit. And so that would, if approved, this permit would be for, to extend the permit through July 5th of 2019. And this is an item directly for this board. It did not go to the planning board, does not require a consistency statement or a public hearing or any of that kind of thing.
All right. Mr. Martin, anything you'd like to add to what's been said? Yes, sir. Just like you said it, I guess. Good enough, okay?
Ms. Nixon, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
The permit that's issued and that we keep renewing, the developer can't change anything about that permit, say clearing trees that weren't on the original permit. They'd have to come back to the planning board and back to the commissioners if anything needed, if they wanted to change anything, would have to be approved.
The staff would make a determination in some cases if they've come across and move some trees or change the type of things that they're asking for, you know, a different kind of trees, as an example. We had one instance where they shifted a driveway in the past, not under this permit, but under another project where they shifted a driveway location and those kind of things. And if the staff deemed that that was a significant increase, had more impact, for instance, on adjacent property owners, then we would bring that back as a change to the site plan.
If they had wanted to change something and it was impacting, say, wetlands or environmental, they'd have to come back for
Right,
approval
those
to
kind
do.
of
They
things
can't
would-
just do it.
If they were impacting wetlands or something that required an environmental determination, say from a state agency, then if the state agency came back with the same determination, I think that was in the original request, then we would evaluate that. I don't know that we've had that situation come up specifically. But if there's a significant change to the site plan, then it would come back to this board as a revision.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Combs?
No.
Any other questions from board members?
Yes,
Mr. Belfield?
we've extended this before. What seemed to be the situation that progress had moved along on developing the solar farm? Is it because of some national trends? Just what?
I think Mr. Martin can probably answer that better. I know that we were in a place for a little over a year where almost nothing got let loose from statewide. Almost nothing got let loose from the power companies, but I'm not sure that's still the.
Mr. Martin, could you state your name and address for the record? I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Philip Martin, 5310 South Austin Avenue, Durham, North Carolina.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Mr. Belfield, to answer your question, we have been there's a lot of smaller projects like Spring Hope 2 and 3 that we're asking for the extension today on that have kind of been in a power struggle with the power company to get these things moving through study. So these projects have been in study since 2015. With House Bill 589, some of those projects have opened up. The power company is continuing to move forward with studying. Spring Hope 3 has now entered into facility studies, so that one looks positive. We're hoping that Spring Hope 2 should move into facility study in the next month or so. But we're now at the point that this should be our last extension. These projects either live in 2019 or die. So.
You're basically saying the extensions are, the reason for them are out of your control.
They're out of our control, yes. I mean, if it was up to us, we would have already been through study and had these things online.
Yeah.
So it's out of our control of what we're waiting on.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering, I noticed there's not a whole lot of push from Washington on solar farms now, and I was wondering if that was getting in the way of slowing things down here. And I read something about Duke Power kind of slowing down. And
Duke is doing their due diligence to make sure that all projects come online and power is safe and secure in the line and everything is studied properly. So they're doing their due diligence, and we just hope that they just move a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Any
I
other
just
questions?
want to know.
No. Thank
Any
you for
other
asking.
questions for board members of Mr. Martin while he's up there? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, no more comments. Entertain a motion to approve or deny the request.
I make a motion, we approve the request.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Barnes. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries.
That's good, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We're now on item 16, and we're not quite at 10:30. I'd like to move on to item 17, if the board's okay. That's really the only item we have left that has public involvement. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Item 17 is a Rocky Mount Wilson Regional Airport Pavement Rehabilitation Construction Project, and I call on our manager, Z. Lamb, to make this presentation. Are you going to do it, or someone in the audience going to do it?
Well, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. If we could have Dion and Charles and your consultant come forward. Dion,
Let me get them on the record.
okay, I'm sorry. Can you state your name, please,
Hey,
and address?
Dion Viventi, 9713 NC Highway 58, Elm City.
Charles Mullen, board member for the Rocky Mount Wilson Airport. Home address is 6750 Maranatha Drive.
Good morning, I'm Jason Kennedy, consulting engineer with WK Dixon. My address is 4611 Connell Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina.
thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Since Mr. DeVenti has been the head of our airport, our three-county airport, we've seen a lot of activity, and we really appreciate all he's doing to make things move over there. One thing he has done is he applied, and the Airport Commission applied for a repaving grant to the tune of almost $15 million. There is a 10% match required of the local governments, and there was a meeting, I believe, last week where all the stakeholders came and seemed pretty committed to recommending to their boards that that they agree to their pro rata share of the match. Our share is $211,458.14, and I would recommend that the board approve this request, subject to the other partners also participating according to their pro rata share.
Did y'all want to add anything to the presentation, or you want me to open up for questions?
Just one point that the pro rata share, which would be 1/7 of 10%, would be spread out over the next 2 fiscal years.
Oh, 2 fiscal years, okay. Ms. Wood, you and I had a brief discussion. We have some funding in our budget this year, which I didn't know about at that meeting. Did you find that to be true or not true?
We do. We actually.
If you would go over that part of it with us. We didn't know we had approved a portion of this in our current budget year. Go ahead, ma'am.
So for, when we were looking at the budget, we were looking at a runway rehabilitation construction of $8,300,000, and our portion would have been $118,571.
Would you
So
state that number again?
$118,571.
Mr. Chairman, that amount would take care of what they're anticipating needing this fiscal year. So this would not require a budget amendment at this time, and we'll just put the second half of the expenditure upon approval in next year's budget.
That's kind of what I was thinking. So
Yeah.
we can do it that, well, let's go ahead and go through it so we'll get a full understanding, and it'll be easy at budget time next year. Now, that had something to do with some fuel tanks also.
There were
When I
other
went back and looked at my budget as approved, what other items are in that money? Because it's not all just this, I don't think.
No, the total amount that we approved was 127,714, and the portion that I just read was related to the runway rehabilitation.
Okay,
The other
that's fine.
piece was the self-service fuel farm and
All right.
fuel farm mitigation.
And I'm still a little bit confused about the hangars. Could you explain that part one more time to me, how firm a commitment that is?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We've been awarded from the state of North Carolina through their STI funding process, $2.1 million for the T-hangar construction. It's under design right now, and they have awarded the design, and the construction award is contingent on the bids for the actual construction project. That is 100% funding from the state legislature through the Board of Transportation.
So I think you answered my question. There is no local match on that then.
No, sir, there is no local match required for that.
Can you tell me that it's contingent upon us approving this, or would that be not accurate?
It is not.
Well, would you say it is? I'm kidding with you, sir. So the board is really interested in getting these T-hangers, as you well know. Did you have another question, Mr. Lamb?
No, I was just making sure, what,
Why'd you steal my notes then?
I just wanted to make sure what that number was we needed for this year.
I got you.
116, and you,
It was 118.
118?
And
We're good.
For the full amount, for the 211,000, we'd need another 92,886 budgeted. If we
Next.
do the full amount in the current fiscal year.
Yeah, I don't think we need to. We could just wait.
All right.
Well, we could, whatever you recommend as finance director, if you'd like to go ahead and appropriate it from fund balance and then just carry it over next year, reappropriate it.
I would prefer that we do
wait.
that. No, I would
Yeah.
prefer that we go ahead and approve it, then
Okay.
it's already in the budget for next year, and we don't have to try to remember what we did today. And
Okay.
I'm sure most board members would appreciate that if we were okay with that.
Sounds good.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Mr.
appreciate you, hard work on getting this done. So, Ms. Wood, if you would tell us exactly what we need to do, it's the amount that we need to approve today, knowing that it would be a multi-year funding project.
It's 92,886, but I can add that amount to my budget amendments. And so when we do our budget amendments, I'll do a fund balance appropriation
Okay.
to include that.
All right, so no action really needs to be taken on this particular item then?
At this point, I'll add it when
When
if
you
it's
do your
okay,
budget
I can do
amendment.
it with my budget amendments.
Okay. Board members, you understand where we are? Mr. Belfield?
I was just wondering why we don't have to take action. Is it because it's already in the budget, this fiscal year?
If the board's okay, it's a two-year funding process. We have enough money that we've already approved to cover what they're asking for in this year. But since we've got it on our agenda, my request was, let's go ahead and approve both parts of it, and then it would all automatically be put in our budget request for next year, so we don't address it again.
It's in this fiscal year budget, so.
It is.
So I don't see why we need to approve that part if it's already, because we have already approved it being in the budget. But, I mean, if you want to amend it,
No, really what we're gonna do is just approve the full amount of what our local match is.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's subject to the other
all right, got you.
districts or funding partners, and I think it shows good that we have approved our full amount, so hopefully it will encourage the other partners to do as well.
Yeah, I understand.
It's kind of what I'm after, okay.
I understand.
All right. We'll take care of that in budget amendments then. All right, we are close enough to 10:30 that I will recess the board at this time. The reason we're recessing is a happy time and a sad time. As all of us know, Ms. Barnes chose to climb another run on the ladder as it relates to serving as a local elected official. She will be joining the North Carolina House in January. She is going to submit her resignation later on this month, I understand, unless she changes her mind, decides to stay, which I think she probably will not do that. But since this will be her last meeting, we do not have a second meeting in December. We wanted to honor her for her service to Nash County for the last 6 years. Do I have that right, Ms. Barnes, I think? Okay. Time flies fast. I won't even start to say what type of commissioner she has been. When she first talked to me several months ago about what she intended to do, I wasn't real happy about it and told her I don't know how to respond to that, to say whether I would help you or I wouldn't help you. So maybe we could retain her here on our board. She has been a great member and taken some very difficult committees to serve on. But we'd just like to take a few minutes to honor her, and we will reconvene at 11 o'clock. So at this time, I would stand to be recessed, and we have a reception out in the hallway, I understand. Thank y'all. I call the Board of Commissioners meeting back to order at this time. We had worked down to item number 18, which is a interlocal cooperative agreement for Middlesex Corporate Center grant project. And I'd call on Ms. Patsy McGee at this time to present this to us. Good morning.
Good morning. On August 22nd of 2018, the NC Department of Commerce Rural Economic Development Division awarded a Rural Ready Sites grant of $1,514,600 to the town of Middlesex. This is a 100% grant with no local match. It will fund construction of a waterline loop and 250,000-gallon water tank in Middlesex Corporate Center, which will be a complement to the first current grant project of water, sewer, and road that we have going on. And just to give you some visual context, the Commerce grant is a 12-inch water line from here, and then it loops back around and connects to another existing line, and the 250,000-gallon water tank will be located approximately here. This is what I refer to as the Commerce scope for the second grant. The first grant is an 8-inch water line and a road extension to serve the Shell building site and a sewer line. And that is what we refer to as Project 1, the current Project 1. And these two projects will be under design and construction simultaneously in Middlesex Corporate Center. Several months ago, the town and county entered into an interlocal agreement for the first project, the Golden Leaf scope. So now we need to enter into an interlocal cooperation agreement for the second project, the NC Commerce scope. And later, we plan to enter into one engineering contract and one construction contract, an arrangement that was jointly requested by the town and the county, and which both funding agencies have approved. At this point, we're simply asking that you approve the interlocal cooperation agreement between Nash County and the town of Middlesex. This agreement was prepared by the county attorney, has been reviewed by the town and its attorney, and is scheduled for town council consideration on December 10th. And in your packet, you also have a copy of not only the agreement, but also the Middlesex Grant Administration Services Agreement, which the agreement references, and the Town of Middlesex Rural Ready Sites Grant Agreement and the map. So the recommended action is to approve the interlocal cooperation agreement with the Town of Middlesex.
Any questions from board members of Ms. McGee on this item? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bellfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. McGee.
Thank you.
Next item is item number 19 is budget amendments. Call on Donna Wood.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, the following budget amendments are being presented for the board's consideration for fiscal year 2018-19. The first item is with asset forfeiture funds. This budget amendments to budget asset forfeiture fund balance for the purchase of a vehicle for the sheriff's office, and that would include taxes, tags, lights, and radio equipment. They're requesting $40,000 from that asset forfeiture fund. No county funds are required. The next item is cooperative extension. This budget amendment is for the 2019 cooperative extension calendar funding. For the calendar, obtain sponsorship donations and to pay for to pay for the calendars. No county funds are requested. It's $2,178. The next item is with the planning department. This amendment's to budget additional funds for cell tower applications received and in process. The cell tower application fees are pass-through fees for cell tower reviews. We're requesting $5,500 and no county funds required. The next item is with the aging department. This amendment's to budget the grant proceeds from the North Carolina Department of Insurance for the Seniors Health Insurance Information Program, $8,198. No county funds are required. Next item is emergency services. This amendment's to budget the Tier 2 grant proceeds from the North Carolina Division of Management for Hazardous Materials, emergency response planning, training, and related exercises. It's $1,000. No county funds are required. The next item is next two items are with the health department. This budget amendment's to budget additional state funding for the Healthy Start Baby Love program to purchase and distribute promotional items to encourage the completion of educational and counseling sessions by enrolled participants and to enhance outreach efforts. That's $5,000. No county funds are required. The next item is a budget amendment to budget additional state funding to enhance latent tuberculosis infection screening and treatment. It's $2,729, and no county funds are required. The last item is with the airport, and this budget amendment is to budget additional capital funding of $92,886 for the Rocky Mount Wilson Airport for Nash County's portion of the match required for a runway construction project. Nash County's total match is $211,459. Current fiscal year 19 budget for the airport includes $118,573 capital funding. Therefore, this budget amendment is to budget the additional funds of $92,886 from fund balance.
And that will go in this year's budget and be rolled over at the end of the year.
We would encumber the funds to be used for the appropriation.
That is a total of 8 budget amendments. 2 of them been in the health department. Any questions on any of those items?
Yeah.
Mr. Belfield?
The one there on the cell tower application fees, is that a fee that's charged for making an application for a tower?
It is. It's a review fee that the county's charge. It's a pass-through that we have to pay. So it's when they submit an application, the application has to be reviewed, and it's what we pay for the review. So it's really pass-through money. So there's an application fee. We pass that through.
We have an outside consultant that does that review.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Any other questions on the budget amendments? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval of all of the budget amendments.
Motion by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Budget amendment stand approved. Thank you, Ms. Wood. Next item on the agenda is the item 20, is selection of a voting delegate for the 2019 Legislative Goal Conference. And we have which commissioners going, Ms. Wells and Mr. Belfield? Is that correct?
Yes.
Have y'all drawn straws, or how do y'all propose to do
No, I
this?
yield to Commissioner Wells.
Are you willing to do that, Commissioner Wells?
Anyway, we recommend the appointment of Marvin Johnson to serve on the board.
Okay, I'm gonna get to that.
No, we on,
I got
I done
it,
missed
sir.
The
something.
voting delegate.
I'm gonna get it just a minute. Are you
My
willing to
brain's
be,
not working.
yeah, you willing to be the voting
I'll be
delegate?
glad to.
Okay, all right. Any questions on that thought by board members?
I'm gonna turn it on.
Mr. Wells is, if it's, excuse me, Mr. Belfield, I'll take that as a form of a motion for Mr. Wells. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Ms. Wells, thank you for serving in that capacity, ma'am. Next item on the agenda is item number 21, board appointments. I'll turn it over to Stacy at this time. I
Okay.
don't have to, she's already there.
The first one is for Turning Point Workforce Development. As you know, this one has been in front of the board for several months. We needed an appointment, and Commissioner Belfield is recommending Marvin Johnson for your consideration, and I believe his application was at your spot this morning.
Mr. Belfield, you want to say anything about this one? I know Mr. Johnson
Well, he has-
served on the board with me previously.
Yeah, Marvin has served on the Travel and Tourism Board.
Right.
And I'm sure you're familiar with him on that, you chaired that. And he's a person that volunteers, and he does a lot of work in the community, volunteering. He's very active in his church. He's a deacon in the church. He operates the van to bring those to church for church or inter-church activities is one of the things he does, and he goes around and mow yards free. And doesn't charge them anything.
Give my address.
In
then.
fact, he basically targets senior citizens.
I got
you. Yeah.
That'll work.
And it's just a people person. And I'm happy to nominate him for the workforce development.
I'll certainly speak on his behalf on the TDA board. He was always attended, which is very important. Number one thing when you're on the board, but he was always there and always brought very good comments. So I'm glad to have him back on something if we approve this. Can we take that as a motion to approve?
Yeah,
Mr. Johnson?
that's
Okay,
what
there's
I
a
did.
second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in
I want to
favor?
state before we vote that I want to thank Mr. Belfield for the work he did to identify Mr. Johnson. When he contacted me, I mentioned Mr. Johnson's name to my wife. I believe he's a retired educator. And
Retired principal,
my wife, I have great respect for her opinion, and she indicated to me that you've just identified a wonderful person to go on that board. So thank you, Mr. Belfield, for what you did.
Commissioner Outlaw also knows we're filming this and it'll be seen on TV later too.
Okay.
Where am I at? Have I got a motion and a second?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Okay, the next one is for the Upper Coastal Plain RPO Transportation Advisory Committee. On December 31st, 2018, terms for the following Transportation Advisory Committee members will expire: the Town of Middlesex, the Town of Spring Hope, the Town of Red Oak, and Commissioner Wayne Outlaw. All of these members are eligible and recommended for reappointment.
Move reappointment.
All right, have a motion by Commissioner Belfield. Is there a second
Second.
to that motion? Second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Okay. The next one is for the Farmers Market Advisory Committee. On December 31st, 2018, terms for the following Farmers Market Advisory Committee members will expire: Bobby Joe Fisher, Brent Manning, Michael O'Brien, Wendy Wheeler, and David Ferris. All of these members are eligible and recommended for reappointment with the exception of Brent Manning and Wendy Wheeler. Our Cooperative Extension Director reported that these members need to be replaced and that with the loss of our farmers market manager, a recommendation will not be available until January. She's still working on making a recommendation.
When you say a loss of our manager, have we lost our manager?
We did. She went to
How's that?
get a full-time job.
Okay, Let's do-
The next one is for the agriculture, I'm sorry,
Wait.
nope,
We need to appoint the ones that we can. right?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Chair, I offer motion that those that are recommended for reappointment be reappointed.
Have a motion, is there a second to that motion? Second by Commissioner Barnes. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
okay, thank you. The next one is for the Agriculture Advisory Board. On December 31st, 2018, terms for the following Agriculture Advisory Board members will expire: Brandon Moore, Michael Strickland, Ronnie Weaver, and Orville Wiggins. All of these members are eligible and recommended for reappointment.
Motion to reappoint.
Chairman,
I have a motion by Commissioner Combs. You'd like to second it, Mr. Belfield?
second.
All right. Any questions on that motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Okay. The next one is for the Carolinas Gateway Partnership Board of Directors. On December 31st, 2018, terms for the following Carolinas Gateway Partnership Board of Directors members will expire: Linda Williams, Steve Williams, Calvin Balance, and John Hyde Jr. All of these members are eligible and recommended for reappointment.
Right. I was able to get up with three of those, which is Linda Williams, Steve Williams, and John Hyde Jr., and they all wished and were willing to continue to serve. I was not able to get up with Calvin Balance. Is he still in our area? Does anyone know?
I don't know, he was supposed to be running a private business of his own
Right.
here.
If it's okay with the board, I'd like to approve three of them and give me till our next meeting to actually contact Mr. Balance. I don't think he's been to a meeting right lately, but just to see if he wishes to continue to serve, if that's okay. So I'd entertain a motion to approve three of them, and just table Calvin Balance's name.
Move approval of those three.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Belfield, is there a second? Second, by Ms. Wells. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Okay. The next is for the Nash Healthcare Systems Board of Commissioners. On December 31st, 2018, terms for the following Nash Healthcare Systems Board of Commissioners will expire: Jeffrey Batts, Marty Neely, Damian Tucker, Jackie DeLoach, and Melvin Mitchell. All of these members are eligible for reappointment. However, Jackie DeLoach has declined to be reappointed to this board. The nominating committee of the board has recommended all of these members except for Mrs. DeLoach's spot, and has asked that that spot remain unfilled at this time.
Stacy, what you read and what we have, we don't have Melvin Mitchell, we got Marty Neely. Which one is correct?
Melvin Mitchell is right underneath Marty Neely. Marty Neely.
We're both.
Yes.
Okay, I need to go to the next page. I apologize. I'm good.
Okay.
So we're going to approve 1, 2, 3, 4 of them?
Right. The recommendation is to approve Jeffrey Batts, Marty Neely, Damian Tucker, and Melvin Mitchell for another term.
Right. And if the board remembers, we actually, about maybe 5 or 6 months ago, added a member temporary knowing this would come up. So we're right where we should be. Entertain a motion to approve those four.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Barnes, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? And I guess you'll cover their function tonight during your comments, Mr. Manager. Their function tonight, just remind us.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, the last one that I have, that I think you don't have, is for the Town of Momire Planning Board and Board of Adjustments. They sent some letters. I believe we have copies of those letters in front of you.
We do.
Appointments expire for Iva Winstead and Meredith Bass for the Town of Momeyer Planning Board and Board of Adjustment. The Town Council unanimously voted to reappoint Iva Winstead as an extraterritorial jurisdiction member and Meredith Bass as an extraterritorial jurisdiction alternate member. These appointments need our board's approval.
All right. Pleasure of the board.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Barnes, second by Commissioner Davis. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Any more?
That's all for appointments.
Okay. We'll move to item number 22, which is to set the 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting calendar for 2019. I have talked to each one of you about that some, and I think we may have a little bit more discussion this morning, but I'll go ahead and let you present it, and then we'll work through it.
Okay. The clerk to the board is required by law to have available for the public the scheduled meeting dates for each calendar year. In 2019, there are 3 meeting dates that fall on holidays and need to be rescheduled. In addition, the March 4th, 2019 regular meeting conflicts with the NACO Legislative Conference, which is March 3rd through the 7th, that's held in Washington, D.C., and Commissioners Fred Belfield, Mary Wells, and Lou Richardson are tentatively planning to attend that conference. The recommendation is the following meeting schedule that indicates the 3 meetings that fall on the holidays that need to be rescheduled. The schedule also shows the meeting conflict in March with the NACO Legislative Conference and a proposed retreat schedule. Recommendations to be considered are in parentheses, and of course, that's on the next page. And there's a recommendation that the meeting time for the second meeting be moved from 2:30 p.m. to 1 p.m., with a lunch being provided to board members at 12:30. Further, there's a recommendation to reduce the total number of second meetings to 6 meetings by alternating every other month, starting with the second meeting in January. And then the only other change that's been made to that is we bumped the second meeting in July up to be the second meeting in June, so that we would have that second meeting right before we end the fiscal year.
Correct. Ms. Wells, do you want to
Yeah,
make your request at this time?
I'll have a request.
Okay.
The second meeting we have in the month is on the, we used to start at 2:30, then the National Business and Professional Women's Organization, which has 7 members that are on staff here in the administration building, meet that same Monday. We moved our time up so that the staff would have time to come to the meeting and still get back here in time for this meeting. I'm requesting that you do away with the lunch and let the meeting start at 1:30.
All right, that's a request by Ms. Wells. Any commissioner wish to make any comments on that?
I have talked to all the board members, and they all approved, if that helps.
Well, we're gonna find out in just a minute, man. Is everybody straight on what we're doing?
In other words, move it from 1 o'clock to 1:30.
Sure. Yeah, I think they're all fine with that, Ms. Wells. And of course, I told you when you called me, it didn't matter to me when we had it. And so we wouldn't do the lunch, and we would come at 1:30.
That's up to y'all, but I mean,
And
we
that's
do
fine
lunch
with
at our
me.
meeting, so the staff people that are at our meeting will have been eating lunch.
So you're inviting all the commissioners to the, what's the name of
So
the
I make a motion,
organization?
we have it at 1:30. Y'all buy your own lunch.
Good idea. Fair enough. I think the motion's clear. Any other comments about it? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the calendar, making one change, which is to not include a lunch on the second meeting, and the meeting time will be at 1:30 instead of 1 o'clock.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? This gonna work for staff, what we're doing? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries, and our calendar is adopted for 2019. All right, next item on the agenda is the, item we tabled from last time, which is the Pfizer tax penalty waiver request. Jim Wren, welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and the other members of the board. Yes, this was tabled last time. I think you all asked us to review the situation and answer the question as to whether or not the penalty portion of the discovery bill that was being considered would have any effect on the inducement agreement calculation. And then we were to come back with a recommendation. So to that end, you may recall that the original discovery bill amount was $312,122.73, and of that amount, the penalty amount was $64,868.69. When we reviewed the inducement agreement and took another look at it, it's very clear that the annual calculation should only include amounts that are based upon an increase in the assessed value over the base year. Therefore, it's very clear to us that due to the fact that the penalty is not based on any kind of value calculation, the penalty is just simply based on the failure of the taxpayer at the time to list. It had nothing to do with value. Then it's clearly not going to affect the inducement calculation at all.
All right.
And then as I pointed out the last time, you know, the taxpayer pointed out in their letter of appeal the uniqueness of their situation in that they were being penalized or asked to pay a penalty for years that they actually didn't own the property. So when we considered that unique part of the appeal, we're recommending that you consider releasing the penalties for the tax years of 2013, 2014, and 2015 in the amount of $48,143.07. In other words, that is the penalty that was applied for the years that they did not own the assets. So if we do that, then the adjusted amount, and I've got it here, that's kind of dark there, but, well, you don't have it on anyway, so we're good.
We got it.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yes,
I was
sir.
looking at the wrong screen. So if you do that, that would leave in place the penalty amount of $16,725.62 for the 2 years that the taxpayer did actually own the assets. And when we adjust it with those figures in mind, then the revised total discovery tax bill would be $263,979.66. So that is our recommendation that you consider at this time.
All right, any questions on that? We actually asked the staff for a recommendation, which they have given us, and the recommendation is to charge them the penalty for the 2 years they own the property and not charge it for the 3 years they did not own the property. I would remind you that the penalty goes to the Board of Education and not to the Nash County General Fund. If I'm not mistaken, am I correct in that, somebody?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Questions from board members? I guess I'll just ask pleasure of the board then, or for a motion to approve the staff recommendation or to alter the staff recommendation.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I offer motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Belfield to approve the staff recommendation, which would be a total $63,000.
$979.66.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Jim, we thank you for that. Now, I will remind the board that the request was only for the abatement of the penalty anyway, so hopefully our finance services would take this as a gesture from the board, as a good faith effort to help them all we can.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Next item is, item number 24, which is the month tax report. Mr. Wren?
Yes, sir, and as always, that is for informational purposes only. I can just comment that, you know, collections are still coming in, big picture overall, very well, and I appreciate what the staff and the taxpayers are doing, so, but that's just for informational purposes.
It takes both sides, doesn't it?
Yes, sir, it absolutely does.
All right, next item 25 is you also, Mr. Wren, tax
Yeah.
refunds.
Yes, sir, the refunds, we need to ask you all to approve the refunds so that we can disperse the funds.
Entertain a motion to approve the refunds as shown.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, seconded at the same time by Commissioner Combs and Bellfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. By saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign? I think the motion did carry, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think the cake is, Ms. Barnes put us in a little bit of a day's state. Must be the sugar in it, or the lack thereof. Now we're on item number 26, which is commissioner comments. If there's any comments or statements any board of the commissioners like to make at this time, I'd be glad to hear from you.
Mr. Chairman. I
Yes,
have a
ma'am,
couple
Commissioner
of
Barnes, your last comment as a commissioner.
Well, Brian handed me this letter as I was coming back in to the room from Frank Adams, and I wasn't aware that his wife had an emergency situation in October, so I just will share this with you all, what he said.
We talking about Mr. Brantley?
Mr. Frank Adams.
But Brian Brantley handed,
He handed me the letter
Okay,
from
okay.
Frank Adams.
right,
So, did y'all know about this?
I did not.
Okay, I'll just share it with you. He wanted to thank the prompt response and professional assistance on the early morning of October 17th, when his wife, Carolyn Adams, had a reaction to the pain medication she was having after having undergone foot surgery at Duke the previous day. When you arrived, she was totally unresponsive, and I had not been able to arouse her. My call for help was answered within minutes, and in a short time, she was alert and breathing in a normal manner. You transported her to ER at Nash General, where she was referred to her doctor at Duke. Your immediate response may have saved her life and certainly calmed my nerves. I'm happy to report that she is still recovering from her surgery and is getting along well. Her only pain medication is Tylenol. Both Carolyn and I want you to know of our heartfelt gratitude for all you did on that fateful morning. The citizens of Nash County are fortunate to have Nashville EMS unit in our community. So he was very appreciative of our new EMS unit here in Nashville that
Close by.
we worked with the town of Nashville on that, and I also had a small role in that also. So
You did.
so thankful that it all turned out well.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes.
And that will lead me into my next comment, which I just want to say it's been a pleasure to be here, a part of this board, a part of Nash County government for the last 6 years, and I will be tendering my resignation effective December 31st, as I will be a member of the General Assembly and looking forward to continuing to serve Nash County. Thank you.
As Regis would say, is that your final answer?
That will be the final answer.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, I think I would like just to say, they're all really gonna miss you, but we're looking forward to you representing us in Raleigh, because we know that you understand our issues. We'll be able to work together, but just thank you so much. That this board up here, sometimes we may disagree, but when we leave here, we're still friends and we're united as one, and I appreciate that.
All right. Ms. Barnes, I'd like for you to send me an email when you start going back and forth, because I could always catch Mr. Collins on his ride to Raleigh, and that's when I resolved Nash County's problems with him. So let me know what your travel times are to Raleigh early in the morning, and I will be calling you during that period of time.
I will let you know, because I was just thinking as I was driving here this morning, I have the best drive of all. I make one turn on the Old Bailey Highway, and then I turn in the driveway here 10 minutes later, and I'm going to miss that.
Yeah, we'll miss that.
Add 30 more to it.
Sure will. Other commissioner comments?
Oh,
Any subject?
Chair,
Yes, sir.
just like to say to Commissioner Barnes that we're gonna miss you. I know you familiar with the Gravleys. They said to me who they're friends of my family, and they said to me, Commissioner Barnes gonna make a good member in the House of Representatives, and I'm sure you're looking forward to that. I said to them then, I said, well, she's made a great contribution here on the board, and we certainly would like for her to remain on the board. I said, that doesn't mean I'm against her going, but we wished for her attendance still being here on the County Board of Commissioners. But I said, she has a good chance of winning and probably will. And congratulations, and I usually visit the General Assembly every year, so I'll be coming by your office to talk with you about issues and anything else that's pertinent.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Other comments?
I would just say to Lisa that we really are going to miss you. You've been a very valuable member of this board, and I not only value my association with you here, but I value your personal friendship. So good luck in Raleigh. You're going to need it.
Thank you.
I'd like to make one other comment if I could. I received an email from Representative Gaillard, and I assume that most members of this board received that email. And
Representative-elect Gaillard, yes.
well, I think he's probably has been elected. But he is very eager to get started and understand what our issues and concerns are. And with that said, he has extended a meeting invitation. I don't know if he meant for that to be individually or as a board.
Board.
Okay, but I thought it was as a board. But in past years, what we have done is subsequent to the legislative agenda being set by the NCACC, we have met as a full board, because with a quorum, it has to be a public meeting. And in addition to that, with it being a public meeting, we invite the media and bring other people in, the staff. And this board establishes an agenda with input from its members and with input from our legislators. And in this case, there are three, I believe, that represent Nash County now, and that would be Senator Horner and Representative Barnes and Gaillard. And I think the best way to continue addressing our issues and concerns going forward is to probably do it as a group with that full body once we determine what those issues and concerns are. And again, I'd recommend that, as in past years, the county staff, with input from all of those people, establish that agenda and coordinate or facilitate that meeting at a time that's convenient to all involved, and that meeting be at a neutral site, and that a meal be provided at that meeting. With that said, I'd ask that with the board's approval on this, that the county manager staff prepare that letter for the chairman's signature, and that letter be sent to Representative Gaillard as well as Representative Barnes and Senator Horner. Does that make sense, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask a couple questions. I know we got the individual email. I wasn't sure where we were supposed to respond to it individually.
Well, that's
with
why I'm bringing it
individual
up
time.
today.
Or whether, okay, so
Yeah.
You had the same confusion.
Well, I haven't heard from anybody, and what I would say is that this board, compared to most boards, works together very well. Ms. Wells says that often. Fred said, we all say that often. We work together very well. And I think the best way for us to continue working well together going forward is to work together as a full body. And that way we are going to probably have better results than if we just go off one-on-one and start discussing what we think are the issues facing Nash County. I think we can better determine those issues if we do it as a full board, and then we share it in the proper setting with our legislators from Raleigh. That would be my opinion, and that'd be my recommendation.
I understand what
I
you're
think,
doing.
and I think we should
Yeah.
to Representative Gagan.
Yeah, which I personally have not responded to yet. Any questions on Wayne's thought, and I'll be glad to respond to the email and explain to the pastor how we normally do it, and that we would certainly be inviting him to, I think in our even year, odd years, which we, or long session, which we'll be going into, we generally do that in March, I think, but we'll double check that. Is that okay with the board if we handle it that way?
We do get some very valuable input from the legislative goal-setting process from the NCACC, so we would have time to include that in it as well.
Mr. McGee, I think you normally coordinate that, so any objection to doing it that way? I think it's a great idea now to understand it.
No.
Okay, all right, we'll proceed to do that
One
then.
question I would ask, and I would ask County Manager Z, have we gotten a request for any interesting things that we want to put on the agenda for the goals and objectives? Probably.
That was some time ago. That was 3 or 4 months ago that they began that process.
Did we respond to it?
I don't,
Need them before January.
It was a deadline.
do you know?
I never got the request, so no, we did not.
It's usually works on
Yeah, I don't, it's usually around September, October. But I don't.
But of course, the goals and objectives, and a thought came to my mind that it is years. So it probably won't be a whole lot of new things. They may be amending, taking some out, and prioritizing some of those that didn't get attention. That may be what we're gonna be doing up there.
Yeah, it will be, yeah.
In January.
Yeah, y'all will be adopting the association's legislative goals.
I attended, the committees meet, I attended the Ag Steering Committee meeting on their legislative goals. That was in October.
Yeah.
Well, the committees should have already, the standing committees should have already met.
They've met, the board of directors have either met or.
They have.
Yeah, to approve tentatively from the board, and then they'll send it to the whole membership on the 10th and 11th, I believe it is.
All right, understand what we're doing there, everybody? I'll just work with the staff and get that letter prepared, Commissioner Outlaw.
Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate you bringing it up. Any other comment from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say thank you to Lisa. I've only served with her for 2 years on this board, but it's been a pleasure, and we're gonna miss you.
Thank you.
I think you probably knew her before then, though.
I did. I can tell folks there's a representative in Raleigh that was raised right down the street from my house.
Okay. Other comments? Well, Lisa, I've said it several times, I won't duplicate my efforts, but you know how much I've thought of our time on the board. You made a comment out there that was pretty true of yourself and I. We may not have started on the right foot, but we are certainly ending on the right foot, and I have certainly appreciated the time with you, appreciated your effort on the board. It has been very valuable to have a member of the ag community on the board, and more than anything else, appreciate the 2 assignments that you've taken, to probably the hardest ones we've got, or some of the hardest ones we've got, and done very well with them. You'll be hard to fill those slots as well as your commissioner slot, but those 2 assignments at the hospital board as well as the mental health board is what we really got to do some heart stretching on this side, the best representative to put on those 2 positions. But we certainly will stay in touch with you. Just one comment. I know each commissioner received a package from the sheriff's department recently, delivered probably by Chief Deputy Medina. I know mine was. It was actually stamped and initialed, what time it was put in my mailbox. Very efficient, like most things the sheriff's department does. Bringing some concerns to the board about some conditions at our current Nash County Jail. I don't take, as chairman, lightly on any concerns that are brought to us. I think we do need to look into some of those things. I'm not sure about the procedure by which they were brought to our attention. Of course, you know, we get comments all the time about it, but I felt like that was probably more in the line of an official notice, and therefore I feel like we need to move forward with some type of action, and I thought about it at length, and what I would like to do, if the board is not opposed to it, is ask our county manager to appoint a 3-member Board of Commissioners committee to dig into those complaints or potential safety items that we may have, to spend some time working on it, very similar to what we did the Gold Rock issue, which was a very successful committee. I'm going to ask the manager to appoint those and try to get it appointed during, at least before the end of the year, so we can begin work the first year on reviewing those items. Is there anyone that is opposed to handling it that way? I think if we just do it in a committee format, we can work in such a manner so we can move along pretty quickly.
Well, shouldn't you as chair appoint that committee?
Actually, Mr. Belfield, I thought about that, and I think due to the fact that it's very tied to the county staff and the issues, I think I'd prefer to have the manager appoint it if nobody is objected to that.
But you're talking about appointing commissioners?
Yes, sir. That's why
I was saying that. I said what I said, that the chair should handle that.
Well, I understand your comment, but if it's okay with you, sir, I'd prefer to have the manager appoint that board, that committee.
Well, if that's what you want, we'll go
Okay.
along with it.
All right, thank you, sir. I will confer with him. Well, I may not. I'd really rather not confer with him. I'm just gonna leave it up to the manager. It's gonna end up in his preview anyway through staff, whatever we may come up with. That's the only item I had. Anyone else have anything? If not, Mr. Manager, item number 27 is your report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a few things here. I'll try to get through them pretty quick. The chairman mentioned the hospital and the Trillium Board of Directors that Ms. Barnes serves on. I believe both entities prefer a commissioner for those appointments, so I would ask y'all to be prepared in January to make those appointments.
If I could,
yeah.
right there, what my request would be to let's get the new member seated and then tackle that with the input from the
Okay.
new member. 'Cause
We'll wait till February then.
right,
Okay.
new member may be a part of that decision, or it could be one of those. I don't know, because we don't know who we're gonna have yet.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I think, I'm not sure if this has been mentioned before, but the early college is substantially complete. Hopefully, we'll be able to remove those trailers over the Christmas break, and they can begin using that facility. I suspect next year there will be an expansion of number of students because of the new renovated space. We have sent Edgecombe County invoices for their share of the cost, and they are processing those. We also have had contact with Edgecombe about the northern unnamed Northern Nash Elementary School.
Unnamed, unlocated.
Yeah, no location yet, no name. We refer to it as the Northern Nash Elementary School, but that would be something the school board would eventually, they would name the facility. So
y'all have met with them and shared the potential cost
right.
factor?
Yes, we did that on Thursday, I believe. Yes, sir. The big courtroom, the existing big courtroom at the facility, you know, we decided we were going to keep that as was, as is, historic value, but also we talked about if you had a month-long trial there, that would be a good location. And the judge, Sumner, has informed me that the week of January the 7th, I believe, they're going to have about a 4-week trial, and they want to use that courtroom. We visited the courtroom the other day, and there is some paint problems, peeling problems on the ceiling and on the wall. And we're getting a couple estimates. We got one for $30,000 to paint everything, and now we're getting one just to patch where the real problems are. But you've got pieces of plaster this big hanging down, so we need to do something. My authority for change orders is $25,000, and so I would ask y'all to give me authority of up to $40,000 for this one project after I finish my comments, if there's no objection, so we can go ahead and do that change order, and she can certify it, and we can get that ready for that 4-week trial. The audit's been sent to the LGC. Has it been approved? Okay.
It's been tentatively approved.
Tentatively approved. But we will have it presented by our auditors in January. The sheriff has entered into an agreement with the feds in Raleigh to house federal prisoners. I think currently he's got about 14 there. We've had a discussion, and that money that's going to be generated from those federal prisoners, the tentative plan is to use that money for those repairs that have been mentioned today that are requested by the sheriff's department and the jail. I think we're getting $65 a day per inmate. We were notified on Friday. It's a double-edged sword, but we were notified on Friday that we have gone from a Tier 2 county to a Tier 1 county under the new formula that the General Assembly adopted back in 2017. So as of, I guess, January 1, we will be a Tier 1 county. And like I said, it's a double-edged sword, but
Well, the blessed thing is it really wasn't caused by anything in Nash County. It was caused by the General Assembly changing the formula a little bit in the last session, the way they did that. And
right.
as you say, it will help us in some instances, but on the other hand, I would prefer to be a Tier 3 county, but
Yeah.
we'll keep working towards that goal.
Yeah, it's, there are 40 Tier 1s, 40 Tier 2s, and 20 Tier 3s. That did not change, but apparently 12 or 13 counties went from Tier 1 to Tier 2, and 12 or 13 counties went from Tier 2 to Tier 1, and we were one of those. I want to join the chorus here. letting Commissioner Barnes know that we are going to miss you, staff is going to miss you, this manager is going to miss you, but you're not going to be far, and we're going to count on you to help us out when we need to. We're actually very fortunate to have 3 members of the General Assembly living in Nash County, and so I don't want to say bye. It's a new chapter, but you've been great to work with, and I'm going to miss you, and I know staff's going to miss you. There is a reception tonight, Nash UNC Hospital at Rose Hill at 6 o'clock, a Christmas celebration. We are going to be out, closed the 24th, 25th, and 26th. That's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for Christmas. We follow the state holiday schedule, and so we will be out those 3 days. We will also be closed the following week on the 1st, which is a Tuesday. We will be here on the 31st, but Tuesday the 1st will also be closed. And I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and look forward to the new year. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, one other thing.
If you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, I did get a card this morning. I opened it, and then saw that it was addressed to y'all, so please don't report it to the Postal Service. But in celebration of the Christmas season, the Free Will Baptist Children's Home and President CEO Gary Lee invites you to join us for an annual Children's Home Community Christmas Social at Heritage Hall at the Free Will Baptist Children's Home, December 20th, 2018, 6:30 to 8 o'clock, floating. So I just want to make sure y'all are informed of that. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
What is the deadline, Mr. Wren, for paying the tax without a penalty this year?
5th.
Of course, January the 6th is the deadline. I think the way it falls on the calendar, I believe the 7th, is the 6th on,
6 is on a Sunday.
yeah, so you get the 7th.
So we get the 7th.
But after the 7th is penalty
Okay.
applied.
All right.
Interest, that is.
Any other comment? I do need to entertain a motion to go into closed session. The closed session will be for economic development update and matters of attorney-client privilege, and one personnel matter in that closed session. Did you have something else?
Could I get authority to execute a change order up to $40,000?
That's for all of that is going towards the existing large courtroom.
Right.
Okay.
And there is no money in the renovations for the large courtroom as of now.
Contingency, where do we stand with that in the courtroom budget?
I think we have somewhere around $40,000, somewhere around $40,000, I'll have to check.
Okay. So possibility it would be covered under contingency. Okay. What Mr. Lamb's asking for is a motion to approve him negotiating a change order to do the work needed in the existing large courtroom in preparation, time sensitive, for a trial that's coming up the first of the year. Is there a motion to approve that request?
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Bellfield. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Entertain a motion to go into closed session at this time.
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Bellfield.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned to a closed session at this time, and do not expect any action, Mr. Lamb, when we come out, or do we?
We don't at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.